We're talking today about the portrait selection consultation. Now, that's a general term. I want you to call it whatever you want to call it. I've heard it called all kinds of names, like the reveal or the premiere. There's a lot of good words for it. I want it, in my opinion, it needs a title that says more than just I'm showing you photographs. And reveal and premiere kind of just say I'm showing you. I want this to be showing and selling. I think the title should include both of these things, where it's not only the it isn't only the the fact that you're going to be showing images, but what is it that we're trying to accomplish here? We're going to show them and sell them. Now, this is part of an in-person sales type of sales program. Not all photographers choose to do in-person sales, and that's fine. You do the way that you feel is best for you and your client. For me, this is by far the best. To me, it's a no-brainer, but I'm not saying that for just because it is that way for me, that is that way for you. I'm showing you one possibility. I think you should just take the pieces and parts that you like the best and use those. And the parts that you don't, either tweak them or forget about them. I'm telling you one guy's point of view. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great, because that means you know what you like. So at times I'm going to be sharing my screen with the handout, and Javi, do you have that handout, or or should I show that? I can do that pretty quick. Do you have the handout handy, or can I?
Yeah, I do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I just downloaded it.
Would you mind, if you have that handy, would you mind putting that in the chat so those who are here on Zoom can have access to that handout?
Yeah, let me just grab that from my email real quick.
Thank you. All right, so in just a moment, you guys are going to have the handout for this, and this is what the front cover looks like. So you'll have that here in just a moment, and it's several pages long about what we're doing today. Those of you who are here on Zoom have a couple of advantages, because you can actually ask questions in the chat. And you can get them answered in real time. Those of you who are watching on one of the Facebook feeds that we're going to right now, we're at San Antonio Photography, we're at Photo SA, we're at Portrait Profits Facebook page, and we're on photography, pop-up photography. So we're on a couple of different places right now, sharing simultaneously. So if you're on any of those right now, feel free to post, to react, and to share something, a comment, a question in the. Okay, cool. I was just down the bottom. I got that message saying you've done that. Thank you. But if you're on Facebook, feel free to comment. Just know that I'm not monitoring all those, and so I won't necessarily get to those for a little while. But definitely feel free to reach out in that way, or join us here on Zoom. And if you want to do that, go to portraitprofits.com and click on the schedule, and just click on the link that's there on that page, and that'll take you right here to Zoom. That makes it, again, where you can interact with us. You can talk to us, you can ask questions, you can do that in the chat. So it is a little more interactive, and you get the advantage of having the handout that I have prepared for you today, which is this. So there's the cover, even prettier than I showed it a moment ago. All right, so I've got 5 steps to a successful portrait selection consultation. There are many steps to the entire creative process. This is just one of many. This is where you're showing your work. This is where you're getting excited. At each step of the client sales process, you have an opportunity to do several things, but here's 3. 1, continue a strong working relationship that you started through the first phone call, through the planning session, through the session itself. Number 2, create an environment that maximizes your creative process, as well as reaches the goals of you and the client. And the 3rd, it is the best portrait experience ever for them. Because if it is, they're going to be telling their friends, and they're going to be coming back to you. This is something I say at probably all of these, of the Portrait Profit shows, but I want to make sure that it's clear. That's why I'm repeating it. Custom portraiture is a collaborative work between you and your client. Now, I'm not telling you that you have to do custom portraiture. You can do mini sessions where you're doing the same thing for everybody. That's awesome. That's great. That can be a very effective tool, very profitable. But custom portraiture, if you're going to be doing something different for everyone, it doesn't mean that the faces are different. It means that you planned something different. Because of your plan, during each step of the process, you have a path. And it's a path that's ideal for small, conscious choices that shape both their experience with you as the portrait artist and how they will enjoy the art that will be on their wall for years to come. This path, the system that you're creating, the system that you're tweaking, the system that you're improving. I just realized I switched off of that, didn't I? Hang on a second. There it is. I'm switching back and forth, and I had it on full frame, so I didn't know how to get back to my handout. All right, so this path, this system that you're creating, that you're tweaking, that you're improving, this builds a strong relationship, giving you the potential to create something that will be a beautiful, emotional work that will result in your clients crying tears of joy every time they see it on their wall. Now, let's switch back to the screen because I want to show you this graphic. What you're seeing up here on the top is a graphic of all the steps that you're going through with your client. This initial contact, that could be by phone, that could be responding to an email or a web form, whatever that initial contact is, you may do several of these contacts. Once you have decided that you want to meet with them, that they like what it is that you do and you want to work with them, then you plan an appointment for the planning session. I call it well, it doesn't matter what I call it. Design consultation. I was looking for the D word. Thank you. So I call it a design consultation, but whatever you call it, it's a planning session. Once I have put that on the calendar, then I want to follow up with that. And so the follow-up is usually, it depends on how far in advance that meeting is, but I'd like to if it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I like to send out a reminder 2 weeks ahead of time, a week ahead of time, a couple of days, day before. I like to have a series of follow-ups to make sure that they know what it is we're doing so that they don't forget, so they don't schedule something else during that same time. Then we do the planning session. And then session prep that you see right here, that's just all the things it takes for you to get prepared for the photo session itself, whatever that is. That it definitely includes getting your equipment together and bringing the things that you need in order to do a good job. But it includes several other things, including emails and phone calls, the confirmation call the day before. All those kinds of things are included in the session prep. Then the photo session itself. And then you come back home and you do your image processing, or you come back to your office and do your image processing, meaning you pull images out that their eyes are closed or the lighting is bad or something's wrong with the image. And you call that down to a small manageable number. And then the image selection, which is what we're talking about today. I call it a presentation of the originals. I'm going to tell you why I call it originals here in a little bit. But this is the portrait selection consultation, where you get to show off your beautiful work and get paid what you're worth. To me, this is freaking awesome. I hope it is to you too. But it's only freaking awesome if you get some things prepared ahead of time, you make a strong plan, and you execute that plan. So let's talk about that. Number one is preparation. There's a lot of parts involved in the preparation, but one of those is communication. In the thank you email message right after the portrait section, Include a reminder about the portrait selection consultation and the details of when, where, who needs to be there. Tell them that the payment is done after the order is made at the end of the consultation. Whatever is part of what's coming up next, include that. Yes, you may have said it before. Yes, you're going to say parts of it again, but you have to repeat yourself. Just because you said it once does not mean they heard it. You've been in a position where someone says, I don't remember you saying that. Or you've been the one saying that. I don't remember you saying that. It's possible that they did. When people talk, our minds wander. When someone's sharing something with us, we're listening to them, but our mind will wander on some part of it for a little while. Something will bring us back. But during that time, we're not really giving 100% of our attention. Yes, we're there. Yes, we may be nodding our head and saying, yeah, but we're not necessarily getting 100% because our minds wander. That's why we have to repeat ourselves multiple times, including in our emails and what we say. You need to send the details again a couple of days beforehand or the day before. And then call the day before to confirm the details, making sure everything's still good. Now about the presentation preparation. Narrow down the choices. In my opinion, and in my experience, the fewer you show, the easier it is for them to make a decision. I don't want to purposefully give them information overload. I'm the one that's a professional. You're the one that's the professional. It's not them. You're the one who does this every day, not them. You make the choices on which ones will look best for the purpose that you guys have planned. For me, that's on their wall. For you, it may be an album. Maybe it's some other purpose. But whatever the planned purpose is, make sure that's what you're heading towards. That's what you're choosing the images best for that purpose. So again, for me, they're going on the wall. I specialize in emotional family portraits as home decor. So people who choose me are choosing me because they want a photograph on their wall. Those who don't want a photograph on their wall, see what I specialize in and don't choose me. That's great, because I don't want to spend my time with someone who only wants the digitals. Because that's not what I specialize in. That's not what I believe in. I believe that the work isn't completed when it's just digitals. Now, it depends on what type of job it is. If it's a headshot, someone wants it for their profile page on LinkedIn or Facebook, then a digital file probably is the last thing. And you're not giving them any more work when you give that to them. But when it's a family portrait, you're giving your client more work to do. What other industry does this? The example I give often is a roofer. Is there a single roofer, I'm not aware of any, that will take off your old roof and then pile the new shingles around the house and then put their ladder away and then come up to the door smiling and this bag of nails in their hands? All right, I'm done. We took the old roof off. Your shingles are right over there. Here's a free bag of nails. Tell your friends about me. You know how to use a hammer. See you later. That's the same thing as when you drop off your digital files. You know how to use digital files. See you later. There's more work to be done. And when there's more work to be done, shouldn't the professional be doing it? Again, this is just this guy's point of view, one guy's point of view. You don't have to share my point of view. You can do something totally different. There's lots of good business models, not just the one that I do. But mine has an average sale of $3,800 per family. What does yours get you? No, that's on the profit side. What about on the feeling side? How does it make me feel? It does not make me feel good to know that I'm giving them more work to do. I don't like it. The job's not done. I'm still the expert on what happens next. So why would I not be doing it? Even if I did part of it, let's say I did printing, but I didn't install it on their wall. I'm still giving them more work to do. So I believe in installation. Yep, all the way till it's done. I don't want to give them any more work. I want to take the work away. People hire other people to not have to do the work. So I'm giving them no work to do at all. Now, They still have to choose their clothes. They still have to get up in the morning to, because it's usually in the morning. They still have to do a whole lot of stuff, but none of the stuff that I do as a professional photographer will I make them do. None of it.
I do have a quick question in regards to that, if I can interrupt you for a second.
Ashley, sure. Yeah.
So I'm pretty new into the field of photography.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm kind of still working on my prices and trying to figure out, okay, if that doesn't work, then plan B. If that doesn't work, then plan C. Would it be beneficial to include a full price in with some digitals? Because I'm basically leaving that up to them to decide if they want. Like I would give them the digitals, but then I'm kind of deciding, do I include the prints with my digital price, or is that a separate fee?
I'm going to answer how I feel is best, but I want you to know that everything that I'm saying is just one guy's opinion. There are
Right.
lots of ways to do it. And so when I'm talking to someone whose way is slightly different, when I'm doing a private session with them, I help them on their way. But so would I ever suggest that someone should do that? There are times when I absolutely do believe that they should include digitals. And so one cool thing that you could do, at least as a marketing tool, is by saying, for every print you purchase, I'm going to give you a web version of a social media version of the digital file. Now, this is beneficial to you because you can watermark it, and when they put it online, it's got your information on it.
Right.
Besides, anything you put online really should have your watermark on it,
Mhm.
because the rules with social media is the social media companies have to be able to allow sharing, meaning they share in the copyright with you. Any image you upload to Facebook or Instagram or wherever,
Mhm.
these are equally owned by them. But when you put your watermark on it, it's discouraging for anyone else to purchase it. And yes,
Right.
they have stock photography sites. People can buy your photographs. You're going to, at some point, if you haven't already, see your photographs somewhere else. This happens. And we don't like it. But in order to have social media, and meaning it's shareable, we have to accept it. That's in the fine print. So that's when I would say, yeah, but I want to have my watermark on it. Now, as far as full res, printable digital files, there's times when I sell those too, but I don't sell them for cheap.
Mhm.
I sell them for $350 each. So if they want one, it's $350.
Mhm.
If they want 10, 3,500. Although I do have, there is a discount when you order multiples. So that's actually not 3,500, but still, you get it. Does that answer your question though?
It does. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for asking.
Yes.
All right. So, and you guys you feel free to ask questions. And so I appreciate Ashley doing that. All right. So you're narrowing down those choices. You're, in my opinion, the fewer you show, the better. Now, when I say fewer, I'm saying that you're showing somewhere between 20 and 40. So somewhere in the 20s is ideal. 30, when I start going over that, I start reducing my sale. I actually have checked this over time, when I showed lots of images versus when I showed a few, and everything in between. And it was very clear. The fewer I showed, around 20 to 30 was the sweet spot. Up to 40 is still good. But when I started going over 40, they started getting information overwhelmed. And they started saying things like, well, can you put these, in thumbnails online and we can look at them later? Or can we come back for a second portrait selection consultation? Or they'd say something like that. They'd say something that would delay, that would stall the process. And to me, that's not their problem. That's not their fault. That's mine. That's totally my concern, my problem. I own every problem in my business. Whether I caused it or not is an irrelevant variable. Because if they're causing it, if it's something that they did, then there is something I can do to change to take that variable away from them. And this particular one was reducing the number of photographs I show. Now, if you sell albums, you may not have this luxury. I didn't sell many albums. I didn't even want to. But if you do, that's great. You just will have to have more images so that you can fill that album, potentially. It depends on how many images you want in your album. But for me, most people bought one or two portraits for the wall. and some gifts for their family. So because grandma and Aunt Susie had to have one, and dad wants one in his office and mom wants one in hers. So yeah, so it was always usually relatively small number of images that they chose. Maybe they want one upstairs and downstairs, whatever. Maybe they want one in their vacation home. I loved it when they had vacation homes. They usually doubled the sale when they had a vacation home. So, yeah, so I want to narrow down because I do not want to give them information overload. And I want this process to go pretty quickly. I'd like to be done within half an hour at the most. If it gets to 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, they're tired of this. You're getting tired of this. And that's not the mark of a professional, to make your clients tired of the process. Take control of the problem and fix it. Whether it's your problem or theirs is irrelevant. Own all problems. So I recommend you very carefully edit your work so that you're only showing them your very best. Don't include anything that you're going to put in the acceptable category. Maybe there's a reason why you have to. It's the only one. Okay, maybe you have to, but for the most part, if it's acceptable, it's gone. It's out. Don't want it.
I also have another question in regards to that.
Sure.
So what I've been doing, I would just give them like all the photos. I think my last senior photo shoot was an hour, and I gave her all the photos digital. And it was like, I think I ended up giving her $175 or 175 pictures, and that also included like some black and whites. But then I know some photographers only limit to like 20 or 30 photos for this price. And then if you want more photos, and that's a separate price. So I'm just not sure exactly what I should be doing or what's going to be best for me and beneficial.
Well, Ashley, I can tell you that the best thing for you is to find out what price you're supposed to have, and then determine what products you're going to have based on that price. And so in this instance, I would recommend one of my private sessions where we go over what's right for you. In case you're curious, I'll tell you what that's about real quickly.
Yes.
So in a private session, we talk about your goals, what you want out of this. So that includes, what do you want to make? If in an ideal world, money was not an issue, you're taking all your variables, your roadblocks, you're getting rid of all of the things that you find difficult, and everything's clean and smooth. And I'm not asking you to answer this question, but I'll ask this: what amount of money will you want to bring in total? And then I'll multiply that by 3, because you've got taxes and you've got expenses. And so we take that number and we find out how many days a year do you want to work, how many sessions do you want to do per week. And then we determine several things. You'll know what your average sale has to be. And then from your average, and there's a bunch of other things that like, I'll tell you how many hours you're allowed to work per client. I'll tell you how many hours you're allowed to work photography per week, how many hours you're supposed to work on marketing per week. It's all individualized. It's all based on math. But based on the number that you have, we'll find the products that match it. Too many photographers are looking what everybody else does, and that does not help them even slightly. It causes them more confusion. They'll be perpetually confused if they're looking at what everybody else does. Math gives us the answers to all those questions. So in a group situation, I won't be able to answer that question for you, but in a private situation, it's a breeze.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's a really good question, and I absolutely recommend the private to you. So you can go to portraitprofits.com and click on contact, contact us, whatever says contact something, and then click on that free 30-minute session, and we'll answer that question for you. Anybody else wants to do that? Because I'm sure Ashley's not the only one who's feeling that way.
I would
Everybody
definitely
does.
jump on that.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Lots of questions.
Perfect. All right. So ideally, you're showing somewhere around 30 or fewer originals. Now, I mentioned originals earlier. Originals are what I call the images that are shown at a portrait selection consultation. These images, generally speaking, have only had global artwork done, and that means retouching that applies to the entire image. So if it's off on color balance, I fix that. If it's off on density, meaning it's too dark or it's too light, I fix that. If it needs to be cropped, I fix that. So global things. Now, as far as flyaway hairs and pimples and things, I generally don't fix those. But if I know that it is something that is really bothering them because they've mentioned it, I might go ahead and do that, just because I know it'll help them see it in its final form. And I definitely want them to be able to visualize it. By the way, it's why I do the portraits. You're going to learn here pretty soon. I do the portrait selection consultation in their home with a projector, and I project on the wall in the spot where it's going to be displayed. That way they can see it in the exact size that it's going to wind up being, because I want them to visualize what it will look like in the end. We can do that as photographers, because if we've done this a million times, then we can picture it in our head. No problem. They don't do this every day. It's harder for them to visualize than it is for you. And so I don't make it where they have to visualize it all. I show it to them. But we're coming to that. We're not there quite yet. So again, ideally, you're showing fewer than 30 images. And I believe you lose money when you show too many. So there are times when I believe I need to put the best image first. It depends on what it is. High school senior, I want to put my favorite image first. Favorite image first. There may be several favorites, so maybe I've got several there. But the one I believe is going to be large on their wall, and I say large only for this purpose. I don't call it large to them. I call it appropriately sized, because that's what it is. It isn't large. In the spot where it's going to go, if it was large, that would mean it was too big. I want the size that is the right size for the space it's going to go into. And so I'm not going to call it large, because it's not what it is. It's appropriately sized. Now that may mean a 2 foot or 3 foot or 3 foot or 5 foot print, whatever the size is for that space, whatever the appropriate size, that's what I will show them. And I'm putting the best one first. And we're still in the prep stage, and the last section of the prep stage is day of. So make sure you get your tools, your gear in order. Now, you're going to have it together. Maybe it's a good idea to put this together the day before, depends on when you're doing it, but you need to get your tools together. And I think, in my opinion, anything that you use, either physical or mental, is a tool. So when I say tool, that's what I mean. Just like the portrait session, you must have all the tools and any backups you need to get the job done. I used to have 2 projectors. Actually, I have a total of 3, but one of them is bad quality. So I used to have 2, and I brought a second one with me just in case. But then I let someone borrow that, and I guess they needed it more than me, because I never saw it again. Never saw that person again. And that's not the first time that's happened. So my wife started telling me, you need to stop loaning things out to people. And I didn't stop. It was rare that that happened, though. So almost everybody is awesome and returns the things they borrow. But I'd bring an extra projector just in case. I also used a laptop to show my work, but I'd also have a backup on my cell phone. And yes, I have had to use my backup. Not often. Now, as far as what you wear, this is a totally up to you kind of thing. I say dress to impress, but I don't believe in going overboard. I've seen people really go, you don't need a jacket and tie, guys. You definitely don't need a tux. That's ridiculous. If for you that your normal look is a t-shirt and jeans and that's how they see you, then that's fine. I've seen photographers in t-shirts and shorts. I think that's pushing it for a portrait session. Now, if it's a fun one like cosplay or something, totally different. But someone's formal image, it's going to be going on their wall. You're in their home. I think you should be dressed better than when you dress it, how you dress at your own home. Just my opinion. Just as one guy's opinion. You do what's best for you. But think about it. Think it through. What do you think is appropriate for your target market? What will they appreciate? What will they find distracting? You don't want to have that. Each time I think of that, I think of a couple that hired a wedding photographer, And the wedding photographer that they hired was not the guy that showed up. The guy hired someone else to do the job and didn't tell them. There's photographers who do that. There's actually quite a few photographers who do that, that hire what they call second shooters or something. And there's nothing generally speaking wrong with that, except this couple had no idea it was coming. That's not right. We need to communicate with our clients. But the guy that showed up to their wedding, for some of you, this is a who cares thing. But to them, this was an important thing. This guy was the worst dressed in the entire room. So he stood out. A photographer is not supposed to stand out. They're supposed to be part of the background. It's supposed to be not seen for the most part. He was wearing a t-shirt, an undershirt type of t-shirt, and jeans, tennis shoes, and he had long hair and had it in a ponytail. It doesn't show much respect for your client. I think you should dress like they do in that situation. But anyway, look sharp, look like you care about your appearance. I think you should pay close attention to personal hygiene. Comb your hair, wash your face, brush your teeth. If you happen to have coffee on your way there, well, I like to have Altoids with me just in case. Yep, fresh breath. You're going to be close. They're going to smell your breath. Make it minty. If this is in their home, which mine almost always are, if this is in their home, leave earlier than you need to. You don't want to be late. I recommend that you arrive ringing their doorbell 5 minutes ahead of time to right on the dot, somewhere in that 5-minute range. Don't show up late and don't show up too early to their home. Now, when it's a portrait session, I recommend you show up a lot more than 5 minutes early, because you've got some setup to do, even if it's in their home, maybe 10, 15 minutes early. If it's in some park, maybe 30 minutes early or an hour early. Depends on what you need to do, if you need to do some scouting. But for their home, when you're doing the portrait selection consultation, between 5 minutes ahead of time and right on the dot, that's when you need to arrive. Here's the gear and the tools that I use, that I recommend. I recommend a projector. It's got to be bright and clear. So those projectors that are $200, $300, that's not the ones I'm talking about. Even the ones that are 10 years old and used are going to be at least $300 of the ones that are high enough quality. The reason I say it needs to be bright is because a lot of the times the people are displaying, the families are displaying the photographs I create in their living room. And the living room generally is a bright environment. Not always. Sometimes they have covers for the windows, other times they don't. But I anticipate that it has the potential to be a bright environment. So therefore, I need a projector that is really bright. And so that means they're going to be in the $1,000 to $3,000 category. So they're not cheap, not cheap. But you'll find that you'll pay for it after your first sale. So it's all good. Of course, have all the cables that you need, you'll need a power strip. You'll likely need an extension cord, or at least have one with you. You'll need your laptop. Maybe you use an iPad. You can actually use a cell phone. Like I said, I have used a cell phone for my presentation before. It wasn't my first choice. It was because my laptop wasn't working for some reason. And presentation software. Now, you can use something like Lightroom to show your photographs. That's fine. It's not necessarily... It's good presentation software, but there is really good presentation software. And probably the best is ProSelect. You can go to timeexposure.com to find out more about ProSelect. And no, I'm not an affiliate with them. When you go, you don't enter in my name. There's none of that. You just go there. Timeexposure.com. That's one. The other is Swift Galleries, and that's at swiftgalleries.com. Now, there are others. Research them. That's just two. Another one that I really like is Sticky Albums, or I think it's stickyalbums.com. Really good. And the guy that owns it, he and I speak the same language on how to do sales and how to get people what it is that they want. And a lot of people don't know what they want, but you can help them as the pro, as long as you know this stuff well enough, which you're the expert, so you're supposed to. So
just a quick question, going back just a couple paragraphs. You mentioned about going showing the images, on the wall and make sure that they're well lit. And people nowadays often don't have that many window curtains or sometimes blinds. So do you worry about the glass when you present the final project? Because it seems like the non-glare protects the photo, but it also seems to take away some of the vibrancy of it.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, I've got two answers for you. On the spirit of the question, I do not put anything in front of my artwork. Nothing.
Oh, when you bring them the frame thing and you hang it, you don't put.
There's no glass. There's no.
Really?
There's
Okay.
no non-glare. There's no museum glass. There's nothing in front of my artwork, and that's the reasons, because I want my artwork to show through. If you're going to go buy if you're going to go to the museum and see a Monet or a Monet or whoever, are you going to see glass in front of those?
No.
Mm-mm.
But I mean, I've actually heard a lot of people that present their photo images in galleries with no glass. So I understand that. But
Yeah.
do people then want you to put glass? Do you gonna come up with that? Like, why is there no glass?
I'll tell you why none of mine want glass. It's
Okay.
because I have business insurance, and I tell them if anything happens, if your kid throws spaghetti on it, if someone who used to be a friend's not a friend anymore, and they draw a mustache on your face, if it fades because it's in a room that has sunlight, whatever the reason, I'm replacing it for you.
For how long?
Period. As long as I'm in business.
Till death do us part.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And just real quick, if I can kind of interject here, I think a big part of that, presenting with no glass, I think another way that you can kind of subvert maybe questions that people have, like, hey, why doesn't this have any glass, is going to be your paper option, your paper choice. What you decide to print on oftentimes can really alter the look of the image, or at least the perceived value of the image. You know what I mean? So there's different art, different papers, whether it be fine art, photo rag paper, giclée prints, anything like that, that can really, even to the untrained eye, kind of have a look of importance. Off the top of my head, I know one of my favorite papers here that we offer it's called the Barita paper, and it's got that kind of like what Jim was mentioning, that Mona Lisa-esque kind of texture, but still kind of a fine gloss where it might almost look like an oil painting to you. If you've got an image that fits it just right, that kind of really exudes luxury and quality. And so I think that Jim is probably for a lot of his clients offering, he's probably not just going with a standard luster paper. He's probably going above and beyond with a lot of his subjects.
So when it comes to this, no matte, right, or matte? Do you matte or not matte?
Oh, with a matte. So I have been in their home and I've seen what their decor looks like, and so that defines how I'm going to complete the image. And so as a general question, I have to say I don't know. But as a specific, I've been in their home, and so I know exactly what it is that I want to do for them. So in that instance, yes, possibly. Generally speaking, almost never.
Okay, all right.
And I know some people sign mats instead of the image itself. So if any of you prefer to sign the mat, then of course you're going to have the mat every time. But I like to sign the work itself. And we'll actually be talking about that in next week's is what I do on the presentation side, or the completion side, from getting the images back from the lab and all the process that I go through there, signing it, and then delivering or packaging for a wow effect, because I want them to be impressed with my packaging too. And then when I get there and I install it. So I'm going to be talking about all those variables at next week's Portrait Profit Show.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of stuff, huh? Isn't it awesome?
Yeah, it is.
I hope you can tell I love this stuff. I know it might be weird, but I actually do. All right, so the portrait selection consultation itself, You're thinking, wow, we've gone an hour and we're just now getting to it. There's a lot of prep involved. Everything has a lot of prep involved. I mean, have you ever been to a play and thought that they started that day? No, the majority of the stuff is done ahead of time. Same thing with this. But when you get to the portrait selection consultation, you're once again, just like you were at the photo session, you are now on stage. And so I like to talk about setting the stage. Do whatever it takes to be full of happiness, professionalism, and confidence. Even if you have to fake it. Because in your mind, you have doubts. They're not going to like these. They're going to compare this to something they've had before. They're going to say something negative that I don't have an answer to. They're not going to like my price. Yeah, okay, yeah, yes. We creatives are ultra sensitive to that kind of stuff, and it can really harm us. It's a problem. What did I say earlier about problems? Control them. Don't let them just happen. Control them. Do what it takes to reduce those feelings. And when you've done a good job of preparing, guess what? Your confidence soars. And as you do this, your confidence increases every single time. So you got to keep at it. Don't expect to be amazing right off the bat. You're not going to be. And if you are, it's luck. You're going to make mistakes. Allow it. That way you see the problems. That way you can control the problems and fix them. I believe you should greet them with enthusiasm. Now, that level of enthusiasm is just the same level as you've greeted them before. Not crazy, not don't come across as too energetic, but the appropriate amount of enthusiasm for both you, your product, what it is you offer, your brand, and your client. Because what happens in the first few moments does shape a lot of the experience of this portrait selection consultation. Because you have planned, because you did the planning session at their home, you already know where they want to display the prints because you had a successful design consultation, a planning session. So get to that spot and set up. If they ask you if you want something, say yes. We want to keep everything positive. Now, I know I know a lot of people, especially if they grew up here in Texas, are taught to decline things. Don't decline. Accept. We want all positive throughout this experience. If they say, can I get you some water? Even if you've just had some, say yes. By the way, if you bring some with you, because I get dry and so I need to have water as I'm speaking, I have some with me, but I keep it in my bags. So that way, if they ask if they can get me some water, I can say yes. I don't say I brought some with me. I want to say yes to their questions because I want them to say yes to mine. Set up all your tools, all your pieces, all the parts that, you know, your projector, the everything that you need in order to do this, set it up. Make sure that your cords are out of walkways. And if you can't avoid that, I bring gaffer's tape. I don't want anybody tripping over my cords. I don't like cords. So you know, when you can use things that don't have them battery powered, do that. If you can't, make sure that's not in any walkways. Your cords don't become a problem. And when you're set up and ready to go, invite them in. Don't show the images. Invite them in, welcome them again, and go through the process. Tell them what it is we're about to do here. Now let's talk about that. What is it we're about to do here? I'm about to show them the photographs. You know this. You're a photographer. You know this. But how? We're going to go through these images one at a time. Each one gets its own time in the sun, its own spotlight. But if you know you don't like one of them, tell me. And tell me why you don't like it. It's possible that the thing you don't like is something I can easily fix in 2 seconds. So let me know what it is you don't like. But you can't say anything negative about yourself during the first pass. As we go through, we're going to go through them a second time, but during the first one, I want each one of them to be able to be enjoyed. For instance, there's a lot of individuals, both female and male, who just don't like the way they look. They think they look too fat. They think they look too old. They think, whatever it is, they're going to see that in the photographs because that's how they see themselves. But what that causes isn't fair to the other person. Allow that person to enjoy it. That other person, let's say it's mom saying, I don't like that because I look fat. Dad isn't noticing that. He sees it differently than you do. Don't change his perception, not the first round. Allow him to experience it the way he experiences it. Same thing with dad. Don't say anything negative about yourself. Nothing negative about you the first round. Allow the other person to enjoy it the way they experience it, the way they enjoy it. Now, during the second round, you can say stuff like that because when we're narrowing down, there may be one that's better than the other based on how you feel about it. But don't do that during the first session, first round. Your process is important. Write down your process, every single step of it. By the way, that'll be in your homework in just a little bit. Second thing, reveal those amazing images. Now, we've told them what it is we're going to do. By the way, I tell them the whole thing. We are going through first round and we eliminate the second round. We're doing a head-to-head with what's left and we come up with the ones that we want. And we already know which ones we want because we planned it during the planning process. We know we want one right here on this wall. We know we want one right over there on that wall. We know we want one for mom's office. We know we want one for dad's office. We know we want one for grandma and for Aunt Susie. We know all this ahead of time. And so we find those images. We already know what we want. I created them during the portrait session because during the planning session, I knew what I needed to create. I'm just fulfilling their order.
Can I step in real quick and ask a quick question?
Sure.
So I just want to see, I did speaking about, clients and, how they might not be satisfied with their own photos. I did have that happen to me one time. And I'm just trying to figure out if I handled that properly. So it was a college senior getting her pictures taken by me. And I presented all the digital photos to her. And then, I waited, for the appropriate time, a few days. And so I haven't heard back from her. Then I checked back with her and asked her how she liked the photos, if there was anything I needed to tweak. And she just felt that she said that she was overweight and out of place. And I had convinced her, otherwise, the complete opposite. And I said, well, if you're not 100% satisfied, come back out on the ranch to my place is where we took them originally. Come back out and, I'll give you a free session. And then she declined that. And she said, you know what, I'm good with what I have.
Yeah, that's probably what I would. So I have a 100% guarantee. And it's not a satisfaction guarantee. I don't want people to just be, I was okay with it. No, I want them to be thrilled. So that's the guarantee I give. It's a thrilled guarantee. I absolutely guarantee that you're going to be thrilled with your images.
Right.
Or I'll not just satisfied, or I'll do whatever it takes, even doing another session.
Right.
In order to make them happy and to make them thrilled. And if I can't make them thrilled, I'm going to give them their money back.
Right. I feel like that's fair. So,
and I think a lot of times when I say that to a photographer, they're saying, well, do people take you up on that? So initially, if you don't know what all goes into it, yeah, they would. But my planning session eliminates that pretty much altogether because I know exactly what it is that they want, and I'm just creating it. So if I go in and I just take pretty pictures, then I actually don't have a clue as to whether they're going to like these things or not. But if I go in and I find out specifically what it is they want by asking them questions, finding out who they are, what they're proud of in their past, what they're aspiring to in their future, and how they spend their time when, just find out about who they are. And then as they're speaking, I'm creating a photograph in my mind, hopefully, based on the questions that I'm asking and the responses that they're giving. Hopefully that creates an image in my mind. If it doesn't, then I'm not done yet. I have to keep on talking to them until I have an image created in my head, because that's what I'm going to build. Again, it's a collaboration between them and me in order to create this artwork. It's not just me pressing the button. It's both of us working together to create it. So both of us are the artist. It isn't just me. You good with that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And real quick, Jim, if I can piggyback off that question that Ashley had, in previous, episodes, you've mentioned that you're not, real big on turning the camera and showing the client. If you're sensing, throughout the shoot that maybe they are someone who, doesn't have the most confidence, or maybe you've gleaned that information, in steps prior to all this, is that when maybe you go and you turn the camera around and kind of, assure them like, hey, these are coming out good, or at the very least, maybe there in the moment, they can, you can hear the problem before it happens at the selection, and you can kind of make that adjustment on site. Like how would you
that's exactly right. There are many times when I do show a photograph. I don't want to show too much, because I want this portrait selection consultation to be a reveal. I want it to be a ta-da. I want this to be something they've seen before. So I do not believe in sneak peeks. I think sneak peeks will reduce the amount of money you make. Now, if you're a shoot and burner, sneak peeks are great because it's a good marketing tool, because you're going to give them anyway. But if you're not a shoot and burner, if you actually take this job to its completion, then you don't want to do that, because you're reducing a little bit of that excitement and anticipation. Yeah. So that's, again, just one guy's opinion. You do what's right. Each one of you who are here, do what's right for you based on thinking it through, not based on feeling, not based on what everybody else is doing or saying. Think it through. What is best for every single step of the process? And then you'll find your answers. So we're showing these photographs. You see, if you have the, let me show my screen. All right, so this is, this drawing here was on my dry erase board. I just photographed my dry erase board and put it here on this handout. So this represents the wall here at the bottom. This is my image being projected above a couch, because that's generally where they go, above a couch. It's sometimes above a fireplace, but a lot of times behind the couch. Sometimes it's in a dining room. There's no couch in a dining room. So, but this represents an end table with a lamp. This is just a coffee table. And these are 2 chairs and a table with my projector on it. And that's me. That's the cutest picture of me right there ever. Look at that. I'm skinny and everything. So that's my projector projecting right here on the wall. And I have them, mom and dad, on each side of me. I actually don't want them together. I want them separated, because any communication that they have, I want to be a part of. And if they're together, they can talk by squeezing hands or something. And I want them to tell me what the problem is. I don't want her to say no to him because she doesn't like something in code. I want her to tell me. And a lot of times it's something I can fix. It's just not a problem. But if because I'm got them separated, they have to communicate. They have to talk. So that's how my setup is, generally speaking. All right, starting with the image that you'll feel will be their favorite, and tell them that. So the projector is off. They're sitting down in their chairs or on a couch, and I tell them, all right, I go through the process. This is what we're going to be doing. Here's our end result goal. At the end, it is when we'll take care of any payment or stuff, but we'll get to that. We're not there yet. And this first image I'm going to show you is my favorite. I love this image. I love all of them, but I think this one is the right one for this spot. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine, because, well, we're all individuals. That's fine. But I'm just telling you, this is my favorite. And almost always I choose my favorite. So starting with the image you feel is going to be their favorite, tell them, project it in a size that's appropriate. You've done this in your prep for that space that's on their wall. Now, let's say the appropriate size is larger than you have the ability to print. Man, that's going to be a really big wall when it comes into that category, because Digital Pro Lab can print in a lot of different sizes, and some of them are pretty impressively large. Can they print billboard size? Well, I don't know. Can you print a billboard, Javi? I guess in pieces you could. So, so that's not what they specialize in. So I wouldn't expect them to be able to do that. And I don't have any walls that are that big anyway. And so project in the size, generally speaking, project in the size that is appropriate for that space. Now, I've got it up on the wall. I said, ta-da. And no, I don't necessarily say ta-da, but I've presented that image, and I give them a statement, a price, this portrait selection consultation price statement. I tell them how much that one is in the size that it is. And so I said, this is our $5,000 size. Can you see this proudly displayed here over your couch in your family room? And I'm saying that whole thing. I don't just stop at the $5,000 size, because I know they're going to be, that's a lot. But I'm going to tell them right away, because I believe that a high price item needs sink in time. It needs time to sink in. They need to hear it. They need to know about it. Now, this isn't the first time I've said the price. During the portrait selection, or excuse me, during the consultation, the planning session, I have told them a ballpark price based on the room that I'm in, based on where they want to have it displayed. I can say, what I say at that point in time is, and again, this is not during the portrait selection consultation, during the design consultation, this is where I talk about price for the second time. I say it on the phone call too, but I can be more precise with it when I'm in their home, because I can see where it's going to go. Most people in your situation will invest between, and I give them an X and a Y based on what I think. So the low number is if they just get a smaller wall portrait and a couple of gift prints. And then what I think they're going to get is on the high end. And so I'll say most people in your situation will invest between $1,500 and $4,000 and get a larger one for themselves and some smaller ones as gifts. Does that fit within your budget? That way I know right off the bat that they can make that happen. Because if they can't, then I'm not the right tool to help them. I'm not going to surprise price on them at the portrait selection consultation. How rude. That's not when I talk about it on the phone call, and then I repeat it while I'm doing the planning session. And now we're at the portrait selection consultation. So they've heard this already. By the way, it's one of the many reasons why I require all decision makers be present at every step of this process. If that's mom and dad, it's mom and dad. If it's just mom, if it's just dad, whatever the combination is, all decision makers must be present at every step of this process. The planning session, of course, the session itself, and this portrait selection consultation must be present. If one of them can't be present during the planning session, I reschedule the planning session. If one of them doesn't want to go to the planning session, we do not do business. It's that clear. I need both parties, or however many parties are present, however many decision makers there are, I need them present. So stay on this size when you show this whatever size is appropriate for that space. Stay on that size as you show the rest of the images, even if they say, wow, that's a lot, can I see one size smaller? So I show them one size smaller, and they know that one's going to be less because, well, it's smaller. So I will show them smaller if they ask, but I also raise it back up because I think that's the appropriate size, and I want them to be able to see faces and everything. And so I don't want it to remain small. I want it to be the size that I feel is appropriate. So go through the images with them, cull it down to just the ones that they want to own. And by the way, that's how I say it. Which ones do you want to own? Not which ones do you want to buy, which ones do you want to purchase? Own. I use the word own. Make sure you pay attention to your process, your system, take good notes so that you're able to give them what they ask for. Observe. I want you to watch them, body language, watch and listen. You're going to learn a lot just by paying attention to what they're doing. Listen to their inflections, pay attention to body language, notice who's in charge of of each situation or of each activity. Do they look at each other for a response? Take care of any objections, any stalls, any concerns that they give you immediately. Now, it's possible that you're going to have to say, you know what, I have the perfect response for that, but it needs to happen after I tell you something else. So maybe that's not immediate, but there'd be a reason for me not taking care of it immediately. And I would tell them that ahead of time. Now, take notes on everything that they're sharing, everything. Write it down and make sure that you're not missing anything. You're going to forget stuff. You're going to have more than one client. You're going to forget stuff. You have a life. You've got a million things going on. Write it all down. I take my notes on an art card, what I call an art card. It's just a 5x7 piece of paper with their name, the date, the images that they want, notes on those images, and what I need to do in order to get the job done. And if there's any more stuff that I need to do, any more specific things, I turn that card around and I write general notes on the back. That's where I do it. And I have it in a binder, kind of like my Portrait Profits binder, except I use a small version. That's where I keep it so that I know what's going on. But there's software to help you out with that. So that's the old way. I'd use software if I were you. Give them an estimate on the completion date. Give yourself a little bit of leeway just in case when we've gone through and narrowed that down. Now, your clients are not going to appreciate wasted time. In many photographers' minds, there's this little weird voice that tells you if you spend more time with your client, that they're going to appreciate it, that they're going to buy more because of it. Most of the time, this little voice is wrong. Now, always, no, there's times when they will appreciate that. But there's also, you have other things to do. And when you do that private session with me, I'm going to tell you how many hours you can spend on each client. It's a math issue. If you spend more than that, then it's costing you more than you budgeted. So there's a lot of good reasons to give them exactly what it is that they want and not waste a bunch of time. So yeah, there's exceptions, but for the most part, get in there, do what you said you were going to do, be kind and never rush, but be very purposeful and get out of there when you're done. Now about the money. That's an important part, right? When you're done, do the math. If you've got a software program that I mentioned before, the math has been done for you. So it's another reason why I recommend those software programs. There's a lot of reasons why I would. But if you're doing it yourself, do the math. And then with confidence, look them in the eye and tell them the total. Now here's an example. Your total comes to $3,800. Would you like to take care of that with a credit card? I don't just say it's $3,800. I add on, would you like to take care of that with a credit card? Because I want to make sure they understand this happens now. Your question might be, what if I can't afford that? So there's times when I have to go back and do a couple of things again. For instance, they may say, I can't do that. Can I take something out and to reduce the price? Absolutely. Can I reduce the size of something to reduce the price? Absolutely. I charge differently for canvas versus regular prints. So therefore, can they downgrade from the canvas to a different type of print? Absolutely. So there's ways to reduce the cost. And they know about this ahead of time because I've told them. Once you've decided on that price, collect the payment right now. Don't say I'm going to send you an invoice later. Don't do that. Collect it right now. Preferably 100%, but you might choose to offer some kind of a payment arrangement. If you do, don't start the artwork, the retouching, I call it artwork, until you've got 50% or what you set a policy for it. Because there's times when someone sets that up because they don't have enough money now and they don't wind up having enough money, period. And you'll have wasted quite a bit of time on the fine tuning of the images to make them ready for print, to optimize them for their size. payment plan, if you choose to do this, maybe you split it up into 3 even monthly payments, maybe 2, whatever you want. Maybe it's 4. Again, whatever it is that you've decided is right, that's what you do. If you do this, do it in a way that it can be automated. You're not going to want to deal with having to call them and continue with getting the money. So I use a credit card that has an auto payment option. I use Square for this particular purpose. I use Stripe and a couple other things for other purposes, but I'm using Square for this because it's just so easy, and I can set it up right then and there with them. Once that's done, it's the exit. Tell them, guide them on what's going to happen next. What are you going to be doing? If there's anything that they're supposed to be doing, what is it that they're supposed to be doing? What should they be looking for? What kind of things you're going to be sending them in an email? When they hear, when will they hear from you? How long are things going to take? Share the process so they have a good understanding. This is essential for a positive experience for both you and your client. After the portrait selection consultation, you've driven away, you're back in your office or home, a follow-up message. Thank them for placing their trust in you. Remind them of what you told them at the end of the portrait selection consultation. What's happening next? Process their images, whatever steps that it takes for you to complete the artwork. I recommend that you write your steps down so that you're consistent. Send it to Digital Pro Lab or whatever lab you think is better, because there's not one, but send it to Digital Pro Lab. There's a bunch of good labs, okay, but go local. Your clients went local. I think you should hire your vendors with the same spirit. Follow up to make sure the order is progressing normally. Now, if your lab says it's going to take a week and it's now been 8-9 days, follow up. Chances are they're going to have it done right on time or early. They're really, really good. So it's generally not an issue, but have it in your notes when you're expecting it. So you have this little flag that goes off. Now, here's your homework assignment. 2 things. I want you to describe the portrait selection consultation from your client's point of view, not yours, not at first, your client's point of view. What are they going to experience with this? This is the ideal version. This is how you want them to experience the portrait selection consultation, from the first follow-up message after the session until the thank you message after. That whole process, not just while you're there. Write it down from your client's point of view. When will they hear from you? What will they expect? All that kind of stuff. You're going to find gaps in how you're doing this when you do it that way. Second is do it from your point of view. Every single step. Now, knowing what the gaps are, you get to fill them in. Write out your steps for your portrait selection consultation, from prep to the greeting, the session, taking the money, the exit, the follow-up email. That's your homework assignment. That brings us to the end of this episode of Portrait Profits, where we talked about the portrait selection consultation. I hope that you got a lot out of this. And I hope to see you again next week. Javi, is there anything that you wanted to share before we end the show?
Yeah, no. Again, Jim, thank you for helping us put this on, every week for everybody. I think Jim offers a lot of really great attention to detail as it pertains to the sales process. There's a ton of people out there that do in-person sales, but I don't think anyone breaks it down as quite as simply and as effectively as Jim. Everything down to the vocabulary that you're using. Not which one do you want to buy, which one do you want to own. Just little things like that, those little bits of polish. I think really, especially if you're trying to, approach it from Jim's business model of really, the experience is what you're selling, not just the print. Little things like that matter. It's all those little, bits of polish here, that follow-up email here that really sell your clients on the experience and that you want them to have. And so, again, thank you all for being here. One last thing that I want to add, if you don't have, the projector yet, maybe you're not at a point yet, in your, in your career where you can have these things necessarily, another option that you have with us and it's a little bit, of education that we like to offer, but through us, we also have what are called proof prints here at the lab. And proof prints, you can order. Basically, we have 4x6s and 5x7s, and you can actually, alongside your, your laptop, maybe that you're, using with ProSelect, you can sit down with your client and they can view, the version on their laptop, but then you can also give them a physical print that they can handle. And again, it just all goes to kind of encourage and implant in their brain that this is a physical process. And, you can use that proof print, like Jim was saying, to, you can, because these are just proof prints, they're very, very, inexpensive. You can mark those up, if there's something that client doesn't like, use that. And that can be kind of your reference for whenever you go back before, providing that final, photo, that final print to them. Use that as a guide of, okay, hey, we talked about this, dad didn't like that, he was looking this way and this is something that I can fix with a little bit of liquefy or whatever it might be. I encourage you to use those. And so, before I let you all go, before Jim lets you all go, I just want to let you know that I'm also a resource here at the lab. If you have any questions, please, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll throw my email in the chat for anybody on Facebook. It's just hobby@digitalprolab.com. That's JAVI@digitalprolab.com. And like I said, I'm a resource just like Jim is. And so he's got you covered on the business side, over here. If you want to come talk to us about the prints and how you need to get set up, I'll be your guy. So again, Jim, thank you so much for helping us out with this. Thank you everyone for being here. I look forward to seeing everyone next week.
Thank you, Hobby. You are a great guy, and you represent a great company. The photography community really appreciates all that Digital Pro Lab does to uplift us. Now, Javi's just put his email address in there, and right above that, you can see something that I'm going to tell you about, the E3 price list and sales system. This is a 9-week class that begins 3 weeks from tomorrow. And so I want you to take a look at that. Click on that link, and that'll give you some information. That particular class that I teach, it's not free. I charge for it, but it is going to be, when you read the testimonials of people who have been in it, you're going to want to take this class, this program. I guess it's more than just a class, but it does have a requirement. Everyone in it has to be serious. And so it requires an interview. You can't just pay and get in. I know that's how most classes are. It's not this one. You've got to be serious about making an income with photography. If you aren't serious about it, then don't click that link. If you're not serious about making an income, this is for people who want to make an income with photography, especially those who want to make a career out of it. But even part-time, this is good, because I will take you through all the steps, all the words to use, all the templates. There's a ton of stuff in this that will cause you to have average sales that are well over $2,000. Again, mine was $3,800. You will learn all those things that I did. And of course, you'll tweak them to make them your own, but you'll have all the templates to make it easy. So you're not building anything from the ground up. You're just, no one's reinventing the wheel. You're using the system that I have, and I'm telling you every single piece of it. So this is the price list and sales system. Thank you, Francis. Francis has been in that class, so thank you for saying it's a great class. I appreciate that, Francis. Again, it's 9 weeks, and if you just click on that link that's right here in the chat, so those of you who are on Facebook watching, I don't have a direct link for you. You know what? You could go to landersphotoschool.com and click on E3 there. So yeah, you can go there to get that. But those of you here are here, just click that link. Find out more about what the E3 program is about. You're going to be impressed. Go at least just to find out what it's about. And if it's not for you, maybe you know someone who it is for. Again, we are doing this Portrait Profits Show, Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School, to uplift the photography community. I want you to join us in that. Help others out. When you see something good, even if it's not Portrait Profits or Landers Photography School, share it. Uplift the photography community. When our clients see prices that are sustainable, they will consider that normal. When they see a price that's $100, they'll consider that normal. I can mathematically prove that if you're charging $100, for the most part, unless you're a very high volume photographer, you are losing money every single time you're doing a job. Mathematically, I can prove this. Give me an opportunity to prove it.
Is the E3 being taught in person or online?
It's being done via Zoom, just like
Okay.
this. Now it's 2 hours per session, so it's a total of 18 hours of classroom time.
Okay.
And at the end, you're going to have your price list, every single piece of it. You're going to know how to present it with confidence, and you're going to have a process, a sales system in place so that you know every single thing that you're supposed to be doing. And so that if you're not doing it, it feels odd. You'll have a template, you'll have everything in place to be able to run your business from the sales side, which is a side that photographers aren't strong at. You're going to become strong because of this program.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts or questions? I mean, the subject for the next Portrait Profit Show, that's a week from today, noon on Monday of next week. Put it on your calendars. It's every Monday, so you might as well put that recurring on your calendars. It's every Monday at noon, except for the second Monday of each month when it's at 6:30 in the evening. The one for this coming Monday is what happens after. So when you're packaging your photographs and packaging it for the wow, that value, and I sign my photographs, I'll show you how and why. The way I do it, by the way, I sign in gold, and there's multiple reasons for that, but I'll tell you how I do it, and the presentation and the installation. We're going to go through that in next week's episode of Portrait Profits. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you spending your time with us and doing your part to uplift yourself and the photographer community. Thanks, guys.